Hey guys, welcome back with some Bears stuff with Dark here. We are having a preview here, Bears and Cowboys. Now I'm doing this today and putting it up today because I'm actually going to the game tomorrow. So I will be there and well, I'm doing this right now. So Cowboys at Bears. Cowboys coming off a crazy overtime win against the Giants. We went back and forth in OT a couple of times until I think it was an interception, and then the Cowboys marched down and had a field goal. So crazy game. And the Cowboys actually came back to win that game, kicked the field goal for the tie, and went through that. Really insane one. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend watching that one. It was the crazy one from last week. Bears looking for their first win after getting absolutely deleted by the Lions last week. Not great, and there's a couple storylines from that I want to talk about going through. Now, Ben Johnson, not liking how the team is practicing, didn't like a lot of the effort. One thing I didn't notice last week is Theo Benedict played the last series. I didn't think much of it last week. He played the last series at left tackle. I didn't really think about it because it was already a blowout game in the last series, and they kind of took out Caleb at that point to make sure he wasn't going to get banged up or beat up or anything like that. But if the rest of the starters were in, that might be something to look at, because Braxton Jones has arguably been one of the worst left tackles in the league. But that was one thing I was kind of not big on that. Now, I do want to say that Theo, undrafted, he was in last year, but had an injury, and I think he was put on the IR. He had an injury like in preseason or something like that. However, the biggest thing is if that doesn't work and Braxton Jones isn't there, is it Ozzy Trapillo time? That was one of the things of my preseason or too early predictions after the draft, was by the end of the season, or maybe it was by the All-Star break, not the All-Star break, but the trade deadline, that you might see a Braxton Jones trade and a Ozzy Trapillo play. Now, we'll see if we eventually have that. We're going to see, but that is one thing. The other two that Ben didn't really call out, but just said there was a lack of hustle on the offense for a couple of players, and it made it seem like he was talking about the skill players when he said we just don't practice. We're not a championship caliber team in practice. And I think he's talking about the skill players. Now, there's been a couple times where DJ Moore on the film last week and in week one, just slowing down on routes, not doing everything he's supposed to. But that kind of does make sense. I mean, he comes here, he has a great year with Justin Fields last year, 1,200 yards in 13 games. And then he has to go ahead and share it around. Rome Odunze, breakout year so far this year. 3 touchdowns, but 160 yards through 2 games. And he's been pretty much their offense right now. And so he is on track probably at this point for a 1,500-yard season if he can remain healthy and keep this production. If he does, we're talking about a 15-touchdown season for Rome Odunze. So breakout season starting to go through with Rome Odunze. Cole Kmet, I've seen, yes, I did see a little bit of obviously some inaccuracies week one, but I'm not seeing a lot of tight end use with Cole Kmet. Haven't really seen much of Colson Loveland either. There's going to be some changes. Also, on top of that, Ben Johnson talked about having a bit more competition. Whoever shows up in practice and whoever comes through and follows through, who wants to play, will be out there. And that kind of goes into the injury report at this time. Injury report is as follows. Sorry for the flashbang there. But for the Bears, we know we had a couple of guys on the IR. But as of right now, these are obviously reported. Hold on. All right, now we have the full one. So, from here, TJ Edwards has not practiced this entire week. Now, I think he's already been ruled out at this point. Kyler Gordon also ruled out, did not practice. Grady Jarrett was a full participant by Friday, so looks like coming off a little knee bang up there. Jalen Johnson has not been put on the IR, but we know he is not a go. We know he can't. I don't know why they haven't put him on the IR for hip surgery. Maybe he's getting a second opinion, but he is not playing. On the flip side, which kind of sucks, Jalen Jones, who's an outside corner as well, hamstring, he is ruled out. Amagaji's ruled out as well at this point with the elbow. DeMarco Jackson, questionable. One thing that's big is DeAndre Swift was limited, full, then limited. So we could see maybe a snap count if Swift goes on, but I'm thinking this might be a Kyle Monungai game for them. So we'll kind of see how that is. Jade Walker, full participant, a little bit of an ankle bang up, but that's not too bad. On the flip side, for the Cowboys, Deron Bland, he's likely out with the foot injury. So at corner, Trevon Diggs, illness, probably going to end up playing because he's full practice. Turpin and Guyton also full there. So nothing too crazy. They do have a lot of some guys that are out at this point. So some guys on the IR, like their center and a couple others. So it's looking right now that we're going to have a hell of a game. Now, this is a high-powered offense for the Cowboys. They've always been decently well at the pass and decently well at the run. Now, Williams has had a great running year so far behind a great offensive line. Cowboys always have a decent offensive line for the most part. 151 in 2 games, so that's been good. And Dak is 549 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pressuring Dak is going to be the biggest thing in this game, and we'll have to see if this defensive line has not been great for the Bears at this point. So we need to see more pressure and seeing guys like Deo, but also Montez Sweat needs to come through and get some pressure in here. It's only really been the guys on the inside or Deo, so hasn't been great there. CeeDee Lamb, always dangerous out here. And then George Pickens coming in. That's going to be one thing to kind of look at. I mean, Stevenson's going to be on CeeDee Lamb. Stevenson didn't have a great time with Justin Jefferson in week 1. Then he kind of got schooled up by St. Brown in week 2. So he's going to have to get on, or we might see a change at what is technically CB1 at this point with Jalen Johnson out. So we'll have to see how he performs in this one. Pickens was targeted a lot last week in that overtime game with the Giants. So it's just going to be down if you can defeat CeeDee Lamb and keep him locked down. We'll kind of see how that goes. Clark has their only 1 sack for them on the defensive line. Now, I'm pretty sure the Bears have more sacks than this, but if that's not the case, what we're looking at is a team that's struggling on both sides of the football for both teams on getting pressure. And that's one thing. Micah Parsons being gone for the Cowboys gives it a little bit of an edge for this offensive line for the Bears, but the issue is pre-snap penalties. I mean, Braxton Jones, not doing great there. Joe Thuney's been pretty good. Some miscommunications sometimes with Dahlman. Jonas Jackson pre-snap penalties have been an issue. And then Darnell Wright has been the best offensive line on this squad next to Joe Thuney. I think it's probably pretty close. The only issue is the penalties need to be cleaned up by Darnell Wright. Otherwise, I think he's playing probably a breakout year at this point. One of the top right tackles in the league, giving up hardly any pressure, maybe 1 or 2, but not giving up much. And I don't think there's any sacks with Darnell Wright on that side. That one's big. And then it's going to be who can really stop the run at this point. Now, there's going to be some issues. The Bears without TJ Edwards, can Noah Sewell do it? Could we see a little bit of maybe a rundown type of issue. Now, remember that week one, they had a pretty good defense playing in that week one, but a lot of that was due to the fact that, like, the Vikings having a rookie at quarterback. I mean, you're talking about Dak Prescott. He can run all these offenses, so we'll have to see how it works out, but it's going to be down to Tremaine Edmonds to see what he can do. And also Kenneth Murray, fast linebacker. We'll have to see how that kind of ultimately does. But, I mean, both teams need this win. Philly with 2 wins at this point. Dallas doesn't want to have to be chasing from that. And then on top of it, Green Bay is ahead in the division, and Chicago are now chasing at 4. So it's going to be a big one. We'll have to see who comes in, who comes out. Ben Johnson really putting a fire under these guys. So we'll see who ultimately comes through in practice. My prediction is going to be, we're going to see a lot of Kyle Managa. I think Swift is going to be limited in touches if he does play. He's been playing better than last year. The issue is he was never great at running up between the tackles. So that hasn't improved, but I think he's been pretty decent in pass protection and everything like that. So I think he's gotten better overall, just not in the running portion. And he's more of your outside back guys. So we'll see Kyle Managa maybe written off the practice squad. Homer's still on IR, so maybe we'll see a little bit of that. Roschon Johnson was playing last week. I did not notice that, but he was playing. So he was playing on special teams. So maybe we'll see some healthy dose of Roschon Johnson in this and Kyle Managa if Swift is out. So we'll kind of see through that. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the pass rush of both teams and the offensive line. Trenches as always, and we'll see if Rome Odunze can have another great game with 165 in the year. So a little bit of a breakdown. We'll see the post game probably on Tuesday or Wednesday because it is a 3:25 game. I have to drive up to Chicago and have some fun. So there'll be pictures probably up on the social medias maybe at some point. I need to start using more of like the other social medias and whatnot. So yeah, I will see you guys post game, and hopefully I don't witness an embarrassing blowout, but I've had some blowout games I've been to, and hey, it's always fun being at Soldier Field. And we'll see if Caleb Williams, which he's cleaned up a lot of his footwork from last week, but we just need to see more consistent play throughout the entire offense and just better for everything other than Rome Odunze, because Rome Odunze has been playing great. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.